The human who shouldn't have been there. Jack Turner was just an ordinary man. He worked at a garage in the middle of nowhere. He liked coffee, fixing old engines, and watching the stars when he couldn't sleep. He never thought his name would mean anything, let alone to aliens. One morning, Jack woke up to find a letter at his door. It wasn't mailed. No stamps. Just glowing silver writing on dark blue paper. His name was on it. Inside, it read, "You have been selected. Prepare for transport." Jack laughed. Great. More weird ads. But the letter burned away in his hand before he could throw it. The moment it vanished, the world around him flickered like a screen glitching. Then came the light. A beam of blue surrounded him. His body felt weightless. The garage, the sky, the ground all faded. Then he saw nothing but stars. Endless, shining stars. Jack woke up inside a large chamber made of smooth white crystal. Strange markings glowed on the walls. A group of tall, armored aliens stood around him. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes golden. They didn't speak, they just watched. One of them stepped forward and bowed. "The human has arrived," the alien said in a deep musical voice. "Escort him to the Queen." Jack blinked. "Queen?" No one answered. He was led through long halls filled with light. Other aliens watched him, some with curiosity, others with clear hatred. He heard whispers. "That's the one? A human? This is a mistake. He won't last a day." Jack had no idea what was going on. He didn't even know where he was, but deep inside something told him. This wasn't a dream. It was real. And he wasn't safe. Finally, they entered a massive chamber. At the center was a tall throne carved from glowing crystal, and sitting on that throne was her, the alien, Queen. She was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. She had smooth silver skin that shimmered like moonlight, long dark hair that floated slightly as if underwater, and deep violet eyes that seemed to see everything. Her presence was powerful, almost too much to look at directly. Everyone in the room bowed. Jack stood frozen. She looked at him for a long time. Her voice was soft but echoed in the air like music. "You shouldn't be here, human, and yet you are." Jack swallowed hard. "I didn't ask to come. I don't even know what this is." She smiled slightly. It wasn't a cruel smile. It was something else. Something sad, or maybe curious. "Your DNA holds something rare. We searched 1,000 systems, and the signal came from Earth. And you were the match." Jack frowned. "A match for what?" The Queen stood slowly. The room grew quieter. The guards lowered their heads. Even the air seemed to pause. "For me," she said, "you are the one chosen to be my bondmate." Jack stared at her. "I'm sorry, you're what?" She stepped closer. Her silver dress flowed like water around her. She moved with grace, but there was weight in every step. The kind of power only a ruler carries. "Your life is no longer yours, Jack Turner. Not if you accept this honor." Jack took a step back. "What if I don't?" One of the guards stepped forward suddenly, weapons humming to life. But the Queen raised her hand. "No harm to him. Not yet." She turned her eyes back to Jack. "You may choose. But you must understand what your choice means." Jack looked around. Every alien in the room was watching him, some with awe, some with hate. The Queen was waiting. He was just a man, a mechanic. He didn't belong here. This wasn't his world. And yet, he couldn't look away from the Queen's eyes. Something in them pulled him in. Something old. Something lonely. Jack Turner had no idea what the future would bring. But in that moment, he understood one thing. He wasn't brought here by accident. He had been chosen. The Queen's dangerous offer. Jack Turner sat in a high crystal chamber, far above, the clouds of a planet he couldn't name. The stars outside the tall windows didn't twinkle. They glowed steadily like 1,000 silent watchers. He wasn't allowed to leave the chamber. 2 guards stood at the door. Food was brought to him by silent blue-skinned attendants. He hadn't seen the queen since the throne room, but her words still echoed in his mind. "You were chosen to be my bondmate." Jack paced the room. "This is crazy. I fix cars, I'm not royal. I'm not even brave." And yet, here he was. Not on Earth, not even in his galaxy. The doors opened suddenly. The queen entered. She wore a dark violet robe, soft and glowing at the edges like the horizon before dawn. No guards followed her. Her presence was enough. Jack straightened. "You came alone." She nodded. "I wanted to speak without eyes listening." She moved to a small seat and sat down like a wave folding into itself. Then calmly, she spoke. "I don't need a husband. I need a savior." Jack blinked. "Excuse me?" She looked tired for the first time. Her voice softened. "My people are dying. A sickness spreads through our bloodlines. Our DNA is breaking down. We've lost the ability to reproduce." Jack sat down slowly. I'm sorry." She nodded. "You don't need to be sorry, you need to understand." She paused, then continued. "Your DNA carries something ancient, something compatible. Only 1 in billions would have it. We searched for decades." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And you found me?" "Yes." Her eyes didn't waver. "You're the only hope we have to restore life to my bloodline. If I bond with you, I may survive, and so may my people." Jack stared at the queen. He didn't know what to say. "Bonding? You mean marriage?" She didn't smile. "Not just marriage, a sacred ritual, a deep joining of mind, body, and soul. If it is not completed, I will die. And with me, our last chance." Jack stood up, walking toward the window. He needed air, but the glass wouldn't open. "And, if I say no," the queen stood too, "then I will not force you, but you will be sent back to Earth, and my world will fall." Jack turned around, heart pounding. "That's not a choice, that's pressure." The queen's voice grew sharp. "It's truth. You didn't ask to be chosen, but the stars chose you. Now you must decide what kind of man you are." They stood, in silence. Jack's mind spun. He thought of his tiny apartment, his job, his old car. All so far away now. This woman, this queen, was putting her entire species on his shoulders. But she also looked desperate. Not evil. Not cruel. Desperate. Jack looked into her eyes again. "So what happens if I agree?" The queen stepped closer. "There are laws. You must face the trials of the throne. They are old, and no outsider has passed them. But if you succeed, you become my consort, the one I am bound to for life." Jack crossed his arms. "And if I don't pass?" Her voice became cold. "Then you die, and I follow." Jack sighed. "This keeps getting better." She gave a faint smile this time. "You have courage, human. That is rare, even here." Jack looked at her for a long time. "Why not lie to me? Why not make it sound easier?" She looked down at her hands. "Because I do not want a slave. I want someone who chooses me, even when it's hard." That hit him harder than he expected. He took a deep breath. His heart was still screaming no. But something deeper whispered, "Maybe." Jack nodded slowly. "All right, I'll do it." The queen's eyes glowed faintly. "Then the trials begin tomorrow." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. Outside, alien moons circled in silence. Inside, fear and fire battled in his chest. He was still just a man from Earth, but now he was a man with a queen depending on him. The royal trials. Jack woke up to the sound of drums. Deep, slow, and ancient, like they were calling something older than time itself. He opened his eyes and sat up in the soft silver bed. Light streamed in from the window, but it wasn't sunlight. It was violet and alive, like it was watching him. The door opened. 2 guards in dark armor stepped inside. "It is time, human." They handed him strange clothes, tight-fitting robes with glowing seams and a band for his arm that pulsed with light. Jack hesitated. "Is this armor?" One guard spoke coldly. "It's your final skin if you fail." That was not comforting. The palace had changed. As Jack was led through its halls, he noticed the usual silent whispers were gone. Instead, aliens lined the sides, watching with wide, emotionless eyes. Some whispered prayers. Others looked like they hoped he would fail. The center of the palace was a round arena of silver stone, lit by floating lights. The queen stood in the center, her head high, her gown glowing with authority. She looked at him, not like a ruler, but like someone waiting to see if hope would live or die. "Jack Turner," she said, voice echoing, "you now face the trials of the throne. If you succeed, you may claim your right. If you fail, you do not return." Jack took a breath. "I'm ready." He was lying, but no one needed to know that. The beast of Trutha gate opened with a thunderous hiss. Something huge stepped out. It was a creature of shadows and bone, with long claws and eyes like burning stars. The crowd gasped. Jack froze. The queen's voice rang again. "This beast feeds on fear. To fight it is foolish. You must show it your truth." Jack didn't understand. Fight it? Show it? What truth? The beast growled and stepped forward. Jack looked down. His hands were shaking. He wanted to run. He wanted to cry. But instead he walked forward. The beast roared and lunged. Jack stood still. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I'm afraid. I don't belong here. I'm just a man, but I won't run." Something changed. The beast froze mid-step. Its fiery eyes dimmed. It let out a low, growling breath and slowly backed away. It bowed its head, then disappeared into smoke. The arena fell silent. He had passed. The puzzle of stars next. Jack was taken into a dark room with floating orbs of light, dozens of them. They moved slowly, forming patterns. A glowing console stood in the center. A voice whispered, "Align the stars of her birth. If you are truly her match, you'll know." Jack stared. "I've never seen alien stars in my life." He touched the console. The orb spun faster. His hands moved, guided by instinct, not knowledge. His fingers stopped over 3 lights. Violet, silver, blue. They pulsed. Then all the lights aligned into a shape. A crown, shining above a single human heart. The tower opened. Another trial passed. The walk of fire, a narrow bridge made of crystal, stretched across a pit of glowing lava. Jack's feet were bare. The queen stood at the other end, waiting. "This is the last," she said. "Pain will come. Do not scream. If you scream, the fire will rise." Jack took 1 step, then another. The crystal was burning hot. His skin sizzled. He bit his lip. By the 5th step, his legs shook. His vision blurred. He thought of turning back. But then, he saw her eyes, watching him, waiting, hoping. He kept going. 10 steps. 15. Pain tore through him, but he stayed silent. Finally, he reached her. His feet were scorched, his legs weak, but he stood tall. The queen placed a hand on his heart. The trials are complete. The crowd around the arena exploded in voices, some cheering, some cursing. But none could deny what had happened. A human had passed the ancient trials of the throne. That night, Jack sat alone in his chamber, his feet wrapped in healing cloth, his body exhausted, but his heart, it felt alive. For the first time, he understood. He wasn't just chosen. He was becoming something new. The assassin in the palace. The night after the trials, the palace held a feast. Music floated through the air, soft and strange. Dancers with glowing skin twirled between golden pillars. Plates shimmered with foods Jack couldn't name. He sat beside the queen at a long crystal table, high above the crowd. The aliens below raised their cups and bowed when they saw him. He had passed the trials. He was now called the chosen consort. But Jack didn't feel safe. Not yet. The queen leaned toward him. Her voice was low only for him. You survived what no outsider ever has. My people may honor you now, but not all will accept you. Jack gave a short nod. He had seen the looks. Not everyone celebrated his victory. He picked up a silver cup filled with a blue glowing drink. Just as he raised it to his lips, "Don't." The queen's hand shot out and knocked the cup from his grip. The liquid hit the ground with a hiss, smoke rising instantly. The floor cracked where it landed. Gasps echoed through the hall. The queen stood. This drink was poisoned. Her voice thundered. "There is a traitor in my house." Guards rushed in. The crowd turned silent, cold. Jack felt every eye watching him. The queen's face was stone. She turned to her advisor, a tall alien with golden tattoos and narrowed eyes. "Begin the search. No one leaves the palace." Hours passed. Jack was kept under guard in his chamber again, though this time it felt more like protection than prison. He paced, trying to stay calm. But something didn't sit right. Who would try to poison him? And why? The queen visited again, this time in a plain cloak. No crown, no guards. Jack stood. Why save me? Why not just let them take the next human from Earth? She looked tired again. Because I don't want the next, I want you. Jack blinked. She continued. You stood in fire. You looked death in the eyes. You told the beast your truth. You didn't fake anything. I need someone who is real beside me. Not perfect, real. He looked at her, unsure what to say. Before he could respond, a small orb floated into the room, glowing red. An alarm. The queen grabbed Jack's wrist. There's been another attack. This one was meant for me. They raced down the halls, passing frightened servants and shouting guards. In the queen's personal garden, an explosion had burned the white trees black. A message was scorched into the ground in their language. Jack couldn't read it, but the queen did, and her face darkened. What does it say? Jack asked. She hesitated, then spoke quietly. He is unworthy. If you crown the human, we will take your throne. Jack's heart sank. It's not just you they want dead, she said. They want me to choose one of our own. A noble. A pureblood. He stepped back. You're risking your rule? For me? She didn't answer right away. Then, I never asked for a human. I never wanted one. But I saw you bleed. I saw you burn your feet and not cry out. I saw you stay when you could have begged to go home. Jack swallowed. The queen reached up and gently touched his chest. You were chosen by fate. But now, I choose you myself. Suddenly, a blast shook the walls. Guards shouted in the distance. One rushed in. An assassin has entered the inner hall. The queen turned to Jack. Stay here. But Jack had already grabbed a spear from the wall. Not a chance. They moved through the palace halls. Smoke filled the air. Alarms wailed. In the throne room, they found him. A tall alien in black. Armor stood alone, blade in hand. His eyes were empty. Cold. Loyal not to the queen, but to the old ways. He didn't speak. He just attacked. Jack moved without thinking. He blocked the first strike with the spear's shaft, but the assassin was fast, too fast. Jack stumbled, fell. The blade came down. The queen cried out, and then Jack rolled, grabbed a broken crystal from the ground, and stabbed upward. The assassin froze, then dropped. The room fell silent. Jack was covered in blood and bruises. The queen ran to him. You're hurt. He laughed, breathless. This is becoming a habit. That night, the queen knelt beside his bed. She cleaned his cuts herself. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "You may not be from my world, Jack Turner, but you've already become part of it." And Jack, though he was hurting, sore, and confused, smiled softly, because deep down, he felt it too. The night of the joining ceremony. The twin moons hung low over the alien city, casting silver shadows across the palace towers. Tonight was not like the others. The streets were silent. The stars above flickered softly, as if holding their breath. It was the night of the joining ceremony. Inside the Queen's chamber, everything had changed. The guards were gone. The walls glowed with soft violet light. Strange flowers floated in the air, their petals releasing calming scents. The silence wasn't empty. It was sacred. Jack Turner stood near a tall mirror, wearing royal robes made of dark silk. He barely recognized himself. No grease on his hands, no earth dust on his boots. Just the image of a man who had walked through fire and survived. But he was scared, not of the ceremony, of what came after. The Queen stood on the far end of the chamber, facing a window that overlooked the galaxy. Her gown shimmered like starlight, delicate but powerful. A golden band circled her head, pulsing with life. She looked calm, beautiful, but inside, her heart was heavy. She didn't move when Jack entered. "So," he said, voice soft, "this is it." She nodded without turning. "Yes, once the bond is complete, there is no going back." Jack stepped beside her. "You still want to do this, even after everything?" She looked at him then. Her voice was quiet. "Jack, I'm dying." His chest tightened. "What?" She didn't flinch. "My people's bloodline is collapsing. My body, it's weakening. I've hidden it well, but I don't have many moons left." Jack stared at her in shock. "Then this bond. It's not just for your people. It's to save you." She nodded once. "Yes. The bond with you, if it works, can stop the decay. It's my last chance." Jack stepped back. The weight of it hit him all at once. He wasn't just joining her. He was her only hope of life. A soft chime rang. It was time. They walked through a glowing corridor to the ceremony hall. The floor was made of starlight glass glowing beneath their feet. The walls were filled with floating orbs, each one showing the faces of past rulers and their chosen consorts. None were human. They reached the center of the chamber. A circle of blue fire surrounded them. Above, a ring of elders watched from high balconies. No one spoke. This was a moment of fate. An elder spoke in a deep voice. "Jack Turner, human of Earth. Do you accept the eternal bond with Queen Azera, ruler of House Vyrith, bearer of the last living seed?" Jack looked at her. She wasn't wearing armor. She wasn't hiding her fear. She was simply a woman standing before him, asking him to stay. "I do," he said. The Queen's voice followed. "And I, Azera, accept the bond with this human, not as duty, but by choice." A beam of white light fell over them. The floor glowed beneath their feet. The ritual had begun. The joining ceremony wasn't just words, it was energy. The blue fire around them rose higher. A pulse moved through the air. Jack felt his mind being gently pulled into hers. Suddenly, he saw flashes. Memories. The Queen as a child, playing with silver birds. Her parents' funeral. The day she first fell sick and hid it. The moment. She saw Jack's name in the stars. Then, his memories flowed into her. His childhood treehouse. His mother's laugh. The first time he fixed an engine. The quiet nights staring at the sky, wondering if he mattered. They saw each other fully. No lies, no pride, just truth. The light burst outward, then faded. The flames lowered. Silence returned. And when they opened their eyes, they were bonded. The Queen touched her chest. Her skin glowed faintly. Her breath came easier, her hands steadied. "Feel it," she whispered. "The sickness, it's stopping." Jack reached for her hand. Then it worked. The elder above nodded. "The bond is sealed. The consort is now part of the royal line." Back in the chamber, later that night, the queen sat beside Jack as the stars shone above. "You could have said no." Jack smiled. Faintly. "Yeah, but then who would fix your engines?" She laughed softly. It was the first real laugh he'd heard from her. "This world, this throne. Everything feels lighter now," she said. Jack nodded, holding her hand. "Maybe it's because you're not carrying it alone anymore." Rebellion in the stars, 2 days after the joining ceremony, peace had filled the palace. Or so it seemed. The queen was stronger now. Her steps were firm. Her voice carried power again. She even smiled more, and the people began to whisper of miracles. But in the shadows of the outer moons, not everyone was celebrating. In secret chambers, behind locked doors, angry voices rose. "A human sits beside our queen? This weak outsider threatens our future. She must be removed. Tonight." The rebellion had begun. Back in the palace, Jack Turner walked beside the queen through her private garden. The trees had started blooming again, tiny white flowers, opening for the first time in years. Jack touched one gently. "You said these trees only bloom when the queen is healthy." Ajera smiled. "They feel what I feel." Jack looked at her closely. Then, "Why do I feel like something's wrong?" Her smile faded. "Because you're right." She turned toward the sky. From far above, a message had been received. A fleet of warships, once loyal to her, had broken formation. Their weapons were armed. They were coming home. That night the palace lights dimmed, not from beauty, but from fear. The royal guards doubled. Shields were raised around the throne chamber. The city's outer towers went silent, waiting for the sky to fall. Jack stood on the balcony staring into space. Stars twinkled as always, but 3 of them were moving, getting closer. He turned as the queen entered, wearing a cloak of armor, black and gold. Her eyes met his. "They're almost here," Jack swallowed. "What do they want?" She didn't blink. "They want me to undo the bond, to remove you, or you surrender the throne." Jack laughed nervously. "That's all? Piece of cake." She didn't smile. "You don't have to fight with me, Jack. I can send you back to Earth before they arrive." His expression hardened. "And leave you to fight alone? Not a chance." She stepped forward, laying her hand on his chest. "If they take me, they'll erase everything we've built, our bond, our future." He looked into her eyes. "Then, they'll have to go through me first." The sky burned red as the rebel ships entered orbit. Without warning, explosions lit the edge of the city. A wave of fire shot through the western towers. The ground shook. Screams echoed from below. The battle had begun. From her war chamber, the queen issued orders to her generals. Jack stood by her side, helping where he could, tracking ship movements, reading energy levels, relaying updates. But the rebels were smart. They didn't attack the outer defenses first. They came for the heart. At midnight, the palace alarms screamed. Rebel forces had landed inside the palace walls using stolen codes. The queen turned to Jack. "They're inside." Jack grabbed a weapon, one of the long alien staffs that lit up when touched. "Let's finish this." They ran together, joined by loyal guards. Smoke filled the marble halls. Blaster fire echoed down corridors. In the center of the palace, rebel soldiers had already broken into the Hall of Echoes, where past queen spirits were stored in crystal form. Jack saw a rebel lifting his weapon toward the sacred wall, and fired first. The rebel dropped. Another came from behind. Jack, spun blocked, struck. He moved not like a warrior, but like a man with something to protect. And he wasn't alone. The queen fought beside him, not with cold power, but with fury, with love, with fire. As the battle wore on, the rebels grew desperate. One of their commanders, tall, silver-skinned with eyes black as the void, charged toward the throne with a bomb. Jack saw him. He ran, tackled the rebel to the ground. The device dropped, blinking. 3 seconds. 2. He grabbed it and threw it through a crack in the wall. A boom shook the chamber, but the throne remained, and Jack was still standing. Finally, the last of the rebel soldiers fell. Smoke cleared. Silence returned. Azera stood in the center of the room, blood on her hands, tears in her eyes. Her people had tried to kill her, but they had failed, because she was not alone anymore. Later that night, in the garden again, Jack sat beneath the blooming trees. His body ached, his heart beat slow but steady. The queen joined him. She sat without speaking for a long time, then quietly said, "You didn't just save me today, Jack. You saved what it means to love." Jack looked up. "I didn't come here to be a hero. I just didn't want to lose you." She leaned into him, then let the stars remember this night, when a human stood between rebellion and a queen, and high above them the stars kept shining, but now they felt warmer. The lover, the legend. The rebellion was over. Smoke still lingered in the palace halls, but the fires were gone. What remained now were whispers, not whispers of doubt, but of awe. He stood beside her. He bled for her. A human, yes, but not a weak one. And so Jack Turner, the earthborn mechanic with calloused hands and simple dreams, became something more, a name, a legend. A week passed, then 2. The queen had healed faster than expected. Her skin was glowing again. Her steps were light. She no longer hid her sickness because it was gone. The bond with Jack had saved her body, but it had also done something else. It had changed the way her people looked at love. Today was the day of binding stars, a holy celebration held once every 10 cycles. Normally, the queen would address her people alone from the throne, but not today. Today, she would stand with Jack. Together. The grand plaza was filled. Thousands of aliens stood in silence. Floating lights hovered in the air. The twin suns above were dimmed slightly by orbiting mirrors, making the whole scene soft and golden. Jack stepped forward first. He wasn't wearing armor. He didn't carry a weapon. He didn't need to. He had already proven everything he needed to. Behind him, Queen Azera followed. Her cloak trailed like a river of stars. Her crown pulsed gently, but her eyes searched only for one thing, him. When they stood side by side, the sky itself responded. A comet passed above them, a sign. The people bowed as one, and the queen spoke. "My people," she began, her voice strong yet warm. "You have watched me carry the burden of this throne. You've seen our world sink, under fear and sickness. But today, I show you what hope looks like." She turned to Jack. "This is the man who crossed galaxies to stand beside me. Not because he wanted power, not because he was forced, but because he chose to stay." Gasps spread through the crowd, not out of shock, but respect. Jack stepped forward. He looked over a sea of alien faces, knowing they once hated him, feared him, and now trusted him. He cleared his throat. "I didn't come here to be anyone special," he said, voice calm. "I was just fixing engines back on Earth when your message found me. I didn't know why I was chosen. Honestly, I still don't." He paused. "But then I met her, and I understood." He looked at Azera. "Sometimes the stars don't ask if you're ready. They just call, and all you can do is answer." Silence. Then, the crowd erupted, not in chaos, in cheers. Thousands of voices calling one name, Consort Turner, the Flame Walker, star-bonded human. Later that evening, Jack stood alone in the throne room. He looked up at the tall crystal walls, glowing with history. Every queen who had ever ruled stared down from carvings in the stone. He felt small, but not in a bad way. He felt part of something bigger. Ajira walked in, her steps soft. "You spoke well," she said, smiling. "The elders are stunned." Jack turned to her. "Do they accept me now?" She stepped close. "They accept you more than any suitor I've ever had." He chuckled. "And what about you?" She reached up, cupping his face gently. "I don't just accept you, Jack, I believe in you." He held her hand. "I still don't know if I belong here." She leaned in, forehead touching his. "You don't belong here," she whispered. "You belong with me." In the days that followed, changes swept across the galaxy. New alliances were formed between human and alien worlds. The Queen's people began studying Earth, not as a curiosity, but as a key. More humans were invited to visit. None of them were chosen like Jack, but all of them were welcomed. And on the walls of the palace a new carving was added, a man with no crown holding hands with a queen. Underneath, words written in 2 languages. He was not born of stars, but he loved like one. Years passed, and Jack Turner's name was no longer spoken with doubt. It was spoken with reverence, with pride, with wonder. He had come as no one, but he became what no one expected: a lover, a protector, a legend.